around, I want to say, not a year ago, maybe 2 years ago or three, Chuck Dixon came with some comments about like the hero's journey and how and I kind of responded saying like this guy's a fucking one. I would like to set the record straight. And I should have done this I think 2 years ago when I first started hearing that he was actually making comments that made me think, wait, this guy's too sane. Are you sure this guy worked at DC? So for the record, I want to say this before I get on to my main point. Chuck Dixon, I apologize. I am sorry because like holy shit. Like I think last year when I started watching his videos, I actually looked for the one where he talked about that topic and why he didn't like it so much. And I'm like, holy fuck, this guy has a point. Holy fuck, this guy has so much of a point. It's scary how much of a point he has. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, basically he said that his thing with the hero's journey rider, here in I don't remember the fucker's name. That's how boring his book was in hindsight, because I couldn't even finish it. Campbell, that was his name, Joseph Campbell. He said this is a guy who didn't actually write. He was an academic, which is true. He was. This is how George Lucas knew him because he met him while he was at film school, I believe, or at a university, the university that him and John Best and all his film buddies went to, I believe. Well, here's the funny thing. He had a point because this guy was just an academic. Like he wasn't a professional writer, as far as I know. He was just this guy who gave. He was a teacher. Then again, so was Tolkien, and he did pretty well as a writer. So who knows? But yeah, no. This here's the thing though about this that I find interesting in hindsight. Campbell, unlike let's say the vast majority of critics like Ebert or the douchebags at Red Letter Media, Campbell didn't go around saying like all these stories suck. He was just pointing out like similarities. He wasn't even. I don't think he was saying like you should be doing this 24/7 because quite honestly, I think even he would realize how futile and redundant that would eventually get because you eat the same thing day in and day out and tell me with a straight face that doesn't get old real fast. Or was that redundancy? Yeah. Like that's like things get redundant real fast when you do it over and over again. A good example. That's why I briefly got sick of eating crawfish, which for those who haven't heard me say this in the past, I fucking love crawfish. They taste fucking good. It's probably my favorite thing to eat on the planet. And you can say, well, why? It's so much work for it. So what? They taste fucking good. It's like video games. Like people can say it's bad for me all they want. I don't give a fuck. I still enjoy playing. I mean, granted, I haven't played games in months, but still love it. Hell, some ideas I've had, stories have come from me playing video games. So think of that what you will. And but yeah, no. So at least Campbell had that going. Now compare this to say, I don't know, the walking STD of opinion that is Red Letter Media, who have done nothing throughout their time, as far as I know, but bitching about how one of them is a film school failure named Mike. Like him and his diabetic dwarf friend are some of the most useless critics I've ever had the mispleasure of listening to. In fact, when I did give them a chance finally, I felt the center to shoot myself in the head for being so stupid. That's how much I hate them. And Jay, oh, don't even get me started. Jay, you stupid dipshit hipster cunt. I would say I hope you burn in hell, but that's unfair to the people already in hell. You stupid hipster dipshit. Like for what you said about love, like your comments on Lovecraft are enough weren't a hate crime against hipsters everywhere. Anyway, at least Campbell had that going for him. Same with Siskel and Ebert. Now, Siskel and Ebert, they had good like opinions sometimes, but when they had a bad take, holy hell, was it a bad take? Don't believe me. Look at any opinion they've ever had on the action or horror film genre. Because listening to dipshits like them was the first step in shitting all over both those genres, sort of. Except with when it came to Craven, he actually was. I actually feel like he came from similar spheres as them of dipshits who got high on their own farts way too much or paid too much attention to the arts. The difference is Craven could at least make good entertainment. He tried to make stories that were good. Ebert couldn't even do that. To my knowledge, he only made attempt at one script, and it was weird. Like really fucking weird. Like sexual stuff. Like I find this funny because this guy, like I remember Ebert when I was going to call everyone who made films he didn't like all these horrible things. Like he called Dirty Harry and Death was a fascist film or films. To which I can always say, where? Explain this to me, you dipshit. But at least Ebert tried to make something. I'm pretty sure Redler needed to do that because they would fail at it, or at least Mike failed at At least Mike failed trying to do that. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. Point is, when I look back on what Chuck Dixon said, I'm like, holy hell, I'm the cunt here. I'm the asshole. I mean, granted, I'm usually the asshole because it's kind of what I do. I'm an asshole. On that Dennis Leary song, I'm an asshole. Which, by the way, listen to that song if you need a good laugh. I'm not saying I piss on the toilet and walk around in the summertime and say, "How about this heat?" But although I would be down for doing that one Jesus joke he did, where it ends with me going, "I'm going to hell for that bit, and you're all coming with me." I'm fine with being that asshole. But yeah. Anyway, Chuck Dixon, I apologize. That's the main purpose of this video, is just like getting that off my chest because I realized recently, holy fuck, I never rectified my mistake. But yeah, he had a point. Like, and this isn't to diss on Joseph Campbell. Despite the fact I find his book in hindsight pretentious, well, not pretentious, really hard to understand because he was an academic. Like, reading an academic is like reading The Prince by Machiavelli. I can't understand a fucking word of it, or reading any philosopher. Like, every time I try to read or listen to philosophy, I'm usually left scratching my head thinking, what the fuck did I just read? It's kind of like how most people feel after they listen to one of my videos. They're like, what the fuck did I just listen to? I just listened to this guy ramble for 10 minutes, or give or take. Um, the only difference is with philosophy, I at least come away with an interesting idea or two if I find a synopsis. Like, I had this conversation with a buddy of mine, Yusuf, one, or not a conversation, it was an interaction one time I had with Yusuf on Twitter. We talked about Nietzsche and how, like, he was saying how, like, yeah, he can write this all fanciful, like, his ideas are still weird. And I'm not trying to misconstrue what Yusuf said, but basically, it boiled down to me. He was saying, like, his ideas were, like, kind of BS. So it's the kind of art, like, let's be honest, philosophy is just a dick measuring contest between crazy people. It's like a bunch of asshats trying to out crazy theory the other crazy theorists. So like Dan, only instead of conspiracy theories, it's like philosophy. Um, but what I took away from that is philosophy is weird and stupid. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think some people don't appreciate. Philosophy is really good if you want ideas for stories, or at the very least an antagonist or a villain. Like nihilism is fantastic for villains. Like that's why the Joker's such a cool villain. Like he believes in nothing. Well, sort of nothing. He believes there's nothingness. There's no point to anything for the most part, as far as I can tell. Um, and for some reason, people always think he's Batman's number one villain. Like, not true. Or wait, no. People think like your villain has to reflect the hero in some way in a dark sense, which I mean that's a cool idea, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I mean, well, not Firefly. I guess KG Beast or Slade Wilson are a good example. Like they suffered no real traumatic event unless you count Slade having a gunshot to the head that cost him an eye, but for some reason didn't heal because he has a healing factor. But back to my point, there's like Campbell at the very least, he was just pointing out the similarities and how this is like archetypal, kind of like how when Stephen, whoever played James Flynn on Black Sail, like at one point he was the voice of Philip Marlowe in when they did a radio dramatization of all the Philip Marlowe books or an audio book or whatever. He said like Philip Marlowe and James Bond, like they're archetypes. They've always been with us, and that's true. That this is true of like a lot of fiction and mythology. Like if you go through mythology, this is one of the things I've always loved about mythology. If you go through every mythology, you will find they have something in common. The Greeks had Hercules, or Heracles, depending on how you pronounce it. Same with the Romans. The Mesopotamians had Gilgamesh, the first recorded hero that we know of, and the original jackass, as far as I'm concerned. And I mean that in a positive way because he's at least funny. He literally told Ishtar, the first god in mythology, I'm good when she tried to hit on him. Or the Jews have Samson, who was undone by a woman. Which to that I can only say, wow, a guy undone by a woman. Who could have seen that coming? Like you find these consistent things throughout cultures. That's the weird thing. Also, the most fascinating thing. Like this is I should tell someone this once. Look at the Native Americans, the Cree in Canada, or just one of those Native Americans in Canada, and then look at the Greeks. Now, these are two cultures who, as far as I can tell, for centuries had no contact, but they had a similar sense of taboo. You know what that was? Cannibalism. Like the Greeks had the tale of like Taeon, the Cree or whoever had the Wendigo. and these are both stories of how cannibalism is a bad thing, more or less. The Wendigo is more so that. The tale of Lycaon is also an explanation of why Zeus tried to flood the world because he had this, let's just say, a psychological wound or a personal hang up when it came to cannibalism. And that's not a bad thing to hate cannibalism, but he really, really hated it. And was also kind of hypocritical because his dad swallowed all of his siblings and tried to swallow him. But then again, when his first wife, Hera, got pregnant, he swallowed her and the baby whole. So I'm not sure if that makes him a hypocrite or he's like not being a half measure. And then that baby was eventually born and came out, and that baby was Athena, if I remember correctly. So mythology has these things that are similar. And I've always loved that. Like, forget the whole idea of like all the gods are real and they interact. Like, no, fuck that. No, I like the idea of like all the gods are more or less the same, except for the Abrahamic gods. They are a bit unique because I think like they are more or less the first ones to get to the idea of like, yeah, there's only one God. Like the Greeks came close from what I hear. They were close to being like there was only one God. The only downside was who they wanted that one God to be was like Zeus. I'm like, wait a minute, you want to worship a struggle snuggler as the one true God? Yeah, Greeks, you got issues, or at least ancient Greeks. The modern Greeks I know jack shit about. But the ancient ones, I'm like, you got problems. You need therapy. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. Like, that's shit. Actually, no. Like, seriously, Hades would have been a better god to worship. Hell, Ares. Like, don't get me wrong, Ares is an asshole and an idiot, but he had good moments that made him way better than Zeus. Don't believe me? One of Poseidon's sons violated Ares' daughter. Ares killed him. I found that out today, and I'm like, you know what? I take it back. This Ares guy isn't so bad after all. I mean, sure, he cucked his I don't know, uncle or brother. But hey, uh, on the one hand, he did that, and also he was basically banging like the one of the worst things in human history, a shipper, and cucking his brother. But at least to counterbalance that, he also killed a man who forced himself on his own daughter, on his daughter. So hey, tit for tat, I guess. Then you have Hades, who I've said in the video before. Hades is the most unjustly vilified character in all of mythology, in most mythologies. Like Hayes is treated like this awful human. Like, no, he's not. The worst thing he did was he kidnapped his wife. Two things. This is probably a time when kidnapping your future wife was not frowned upon. Two, this is more like an arranged marriage. Like Zeus, Persephone's father, and also the guy who, in some versions, fathered a kid with her by forcing himself on her, tricking her into sleeping with him, or turning himself into a snake and then sliding in, was the one who arranged this. So this isn't so much a kidnapping as it was an arranged marriage. And like, if you go throughout history, you try to tell me with a straight face some marriages do not have a bride who was not exactly happy at first with who they were forced to marry. I want to know the name of your shroom dealer, or I want to know where you learned to lie. Because if so, Todd Howard is probably lying free within me. Because there are a lot of women who were put through that situation in the past, probably. So, actually, I have no idea where I was. Oh, right. Chuck Dixon. Sorry. You mentioned mythology. I nerd the fuck out. I fanboy the fuck out. Point is, mythology has all these fascinating things in their stories that are kind of similar between cultures. And Campbell was just pointing that out. So I don't fully think Chuck Dixon's assessment of what he did was completely justified, but at the same time, I don't think he was completely unjustified because like everyone and their mother seems to think you need to go with this blow by blow instruction from the book. You don't. It's like the pirate code in the Pirates of the Caribbean. It's more of a guideline as far as I'm concerned. Like I stopped trying to pay attention to these rules that they said or these things they point you do, like the whole character art that one Wayland lady pointed out, like the ghost, which was like your character, some from a past hunch character, or the wound, the want, the need. I kind of gave up on trying to do those consciously, at least consciously. I probably still do it. I just don't know it. But like, you know what? I'm 110% done trying to consciously follow this stuff. If I do, it's going to be completely by serendipity. So I think Chuck Dixon had a point. He had a point, and this video ran out way longer than it should have because I had to have those little rants. But yeah, no, Chuck Dixon, I apologize for being an asshole, and he's never gonna see this video, but I just want to put this out there so anyone who goes through my videos for some reason, I don't know, maybe you're bored or need to kill brain cells, and finds me bashing him and then praising him later on. Yeah, this is me explaining that. Like, I was not fully seeing his side of the argument. I did see it finally last year, and this is me kind of rectifying my mistake. So, yeah, Chuck Dixon, awesome guy. If you haven't, follow his YouTube channel. He has a lot of good videos I've seen. I have considered reaching out to him to see if I could like do a stream with him or just talk to him about some stuff because like I would talk to him for the same reason I would talk to George Lucas, like just as a fellow. Actually, no, I don't consider myself one of their fellow storytellers because they've actually done it. I'm still in the process of doing it. But like, they are people who I would like to pick the brain of as storytellers, just to hear what they had to say on like what they think storytelling's important aspect should be. Because the ones I want to talk to are long dead. Like, I can't talk to Lovecraft or Robert E. Howard. Although I would talk to them for different reasons. Howard, I would talk to because it wasn't so much his storytelling that I like as how he told it. Like the way he worded things were fascinating. And Lovecraft, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, and had it never occurred to you to try to kill yourself later? Because he already considered that once and he kind of talked himself out of it. Anyway, I'm going to end the video. Sorry for that rant. Those of you who stuck around the song, thank you. Have a nice day. Remember, the game was right from the start. Goodbye.